Hello, I'm Charles. That's about all the introduction I need. I work at Swift Logistics as a BI analyst, and I've only been doing that for a few months, so I'm still pretty new. So to all of you who are also new to BI, to data, maybe to Tableau, thanks for coming. And thanks for everyone for coming to a talk called Embracing Stupid Questions. Maybe that's not what you thought you'd be doing most of the time, but well, here we are. Since I have been doing analyst stuff for a few months, I'm a little bit out of practice talking to people. I've been hiding in a corner and bashing my head against data for a while, so if I get confused or fall over, try to bear with me. For the newer folks, hopefully there's something here you can take away. For the more experienced folks, at least there's pretty pictures. I've tried to stuff a lot of stuff in. She mentioned the pared down 66 slides. The idea is to just throw a lot of stuff out and to do it really quickly, so hopefully no one falls asleep, and at least maybe you'll, again, get to see some pretty pictures. So before that, I worked in the game industry for a while as a designer and a developer. I eventually got into data when my team really needed to find out what our players were doing, and there wasn't really anyone that wanted to go into the data realm. I find that game developers, especially among developers, really run away like you've set them on fire if you mention anything business related. And I was the one that ran the least fast, so then that's what I was doing. The game industry, contrary to what some people think, is not exactly the happiest place, but it did put me in a great spot to learn about systems, to see why people do things, to see how people will pursue those outcomes. So it was great training. Then I moved on to academia, basically teaching people all of that, how to design and develop games. And I tried to sneak in any data awareness, any analyst stuff anywhere I could, and it was always amazing how much the students repelled against that and would also try to run away as fast as they could from anything business related, but I tried. And so now I'm in the transportation industry, so I'm very new to the transportation industry, so I'll avoid talking about transportation as much as possible. But it has given me a lot of new things to learn, a lot of data to play with, a lot of systems to optimize. But now to the point, stupid questions. And the basic idea is that we should embrace them because there's no one in a better position than us who like to dig around in data, who like to find the root cause of things if possible. There's no one better than us to ask or answer them. So Socrates might think that we should start all of our questioning from a blank slate. And if we do that, our questions wind up sounding a bit stupid to people sometimes, but that's how we really get to where we're going, I'll contend. The problem is that this doesn't say anything about how Socrates' meetings might have gone, right? I don't know how well you can see these guys, but these guys right here, these aren't people that are about to give you a very positive 360 review, right? So we should have some caution, it's true. The fear of making people make faces like that is really why I think people shy away from asking questions at all, right? People don't even want to ask really smart questions for fear of sounding stupid. They'd rather hide under the desk than do that. But people don't normally do this in meetings. I mean, maybe once or twice, but normally, at least, people keep it inside. But the point is, if you can do something like that, like asking really, really dumb, really basic questions that no one else is willing to do, it's like an underappreciated superpower, right? If you can do things someone else can't do, that's a power. But of course, with that comes responsibility. You have to be careful. I'm not a career counselor, so be careful when you try this at home, right? It is at your own risk. Ironically, though, I think that people don't really think that you're stupid when you ask questions like that. Instead, I think that you have to be careful because they think you're trying to trap them. They think you're trying to make them look stupid, and that's probably even worse than looking stupid yourself. So plenty of care and tact should be used. It can feel like you're attacking them maybe, as if you're questioning if they know how to do their job. And so I think all of us who are digging in data, who are trying to answer questions, we have to always make sure that when we go probing at things, we try to make them understand that we're the ones trying to understand a problem, trying to understand a question. It's not really an outward focus, it's an inward thing. We have a problem and we want to understand it as well as we possibly can. And such questions come out sometimes. Now, I don't think it's that people don't know the answers to these questions, but sometimes we know things, we have assumptions, but they're assumptions that may have made sense 5 years ago, 6 months ago, or whenever, right? They're assumptions that maybe haven't been checked in a while. They may have had really great underlying reasons when they were first done, but when you have things in business, we hear things like, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Don't fix the telephone, it works just fine. It lets you talk to people. Why would you need an iPhone when you have one of these things, right? And how many systems in our business are run like that, right? I mean, you go to a manager or whoever signs the budget for making new projects and you want to replace a thing that works just fine. That's a tough sell in truth, right? So it can be tricky. But anytime you hear someone say something like that, it's working, don't worry about it. We've always done it this way, or this is just how we do it here. That should make your data sense tingle and make you feel like you need to start poking that area, right? Because it's obviously not being poked by anyone else. So for the game industry, back to some examples of stupid questions that I've asked. I think the best and worst one might have been, wait, what do you mean we're not tracking any metrics? That wasn't very nice. And I don't know if you play many games, but isn't it odd that console games cost the same price today as they did in the 80s? Not even inflation adjusted, right? $59.95, that's what games cost. There's some variations, but that's basically what the mainstream price is. Do you know how much the budget for a top-end game has increased since then?
100 billions.
500 times-ish. In the 80s, one of the biggest selling games was Super Mario Bros. 3, about $250,000 budget. Sold 20-ish million copies. GTA 5, a couple of years ago, sold a similar number of copies for the exact same price point, right? And really half that inflation adjusted. And its budget was a couple of $100 million. That's weird, right? We should be asking those, or the game industry should be asking those questions. But as an aside, if you could find something like GTA 5 in a bargain bin for 20 bucks, or maybe the Old Republic for free even, it's an unspeakably fantastic value proposition, right? So you're getting a lot of content for not very much money. And schools, my next career, they're really great for having these questions that can make everyone really, really uncomfortable in that meeting. They're really great at doing things the old way because the old way works. Change is really tricky. So I made people uncomfortable asking questions like, wait, why do we need tests again? Why are we doing academic research papers when almost all of our students are going into industry? Why aren't we doing online classes? Oh, well, because we need physical classrooms. Okay, well, why do we need physical classrooms?
Can't trust spit lots of the teacher if he's online.
That's true. That's true. You can dox them though, and that's nice. And PowerPoint slides like this, right? Why does everybody make slides with so many words that people are forced to read the slide instead of listen to the speaker, right? If you make slides like this, you really should have an online class. I didn't win most of those, obviously, but I did make some progress, right? I never once gave a test to any of my students. I never once gave a research paper assignment, and all of my lectures were exactly like this. Well, like this, not like this, right? All pictures, mostly. So now I have a new industry to ask stupid questions about. One of the first things that I got to delve into with stupid questions was to check into the on-time percentages of our carriers, right? So we send things from place to place, and it's pretty important that they get there on time. It seems pretty straightforward. Doesn't seem like something that most people would think too much about, right? It seems simple, straightforward. Pretty simple metric. Just measure how often someone is on time, and the higher the number, the better. So if I were to ask, is being on time good? That might be a little too stupid. But what about, what does being on time mean? It sounds simple, almost more stupid than the other question, right? How do you tell if something's on time? Well, when something arrives when expected, but how is that delivery getting reported? Who's telling you that something is on time or not, right? That throws a bit of a kink into the works. Is the person who delivered it telling you? If so, they have a little bit of a vested interest into making sure that time is right, whether it was or not. Is the person who's receiving telling you something, and then maybe they have some vested interest in making things late when they're not, right? There are some competing motivations. And if it's not fully automated by a system you can trust, there's room for these errors to creep in, either from user error or from number fudging or for anything, right? And if there is this room for error, how do you know that the error is there unless somebody complains, right? People aren't reporting crazy numbers, but if somebody's 5 minutes late and on time gets reported, who is double checking that? Does your system actually take that into account? Are you sure that all of your data that you get in your system is the data that you think should be in your system? It can be really tricky, right? And errors that you can't tell are errors can be really, really scary because you make decisions based on that data that you think is right. So, I mean, one question is, do people really care if something is 30 seconds late? I mean, if you're talking about